My phone started ringing at 2:07 in the morning. And before I even touched it, my chest tightened. Because calls like that? They never bring good news. I grabbed my phone, heart already racing. Hello? No greeting. No hesitation. Tomorrow night, my mom said, her voice sharp like she'd been awake for hours, your brother's fiance's family is coming over for dinner. I blinked into the darkness, trying to catch up. That's good? I said slowly. A pause. Then came the sentence I wish I had taken more seriously. You can come, she added, but don't talk too much. Silence filled the room. I sat up straight. What do you mean? Her tone changed, colder now. Just keep things simple, Ava. Don't go into details. Don't make things awkward like you always do. There it was. That familiar sting. Not new. Just sharper at 2 a.m. I stared at the ceiling, gripping the phone tighter. Why? I asked, even though something inside me already knew. She lowered her voice. Because her father is a federal judge. And just like that, everything made sense. This wasn't dinner. This was a performance. Do not embarrass us, she continued. This is important for your brother. Important for him. Never for me. Got it, I said quietly. But something about the way she exhaled after that, like she had just secured control, didn't sit right with me. One more thing, she added quickly. I closed my eyes. Of course there was more. If anyone asks what you do, she said, just say you work in an office. I froze. What? Don't mention law. Don't mention your firm. Just keep it basic. The room suddenly felt smaller. Like the walls were pressing in. Mom. I am a lawyer. I know what you are, she snapped. But this isn't about you. There it was again. That line. The one she'd been using my whole life. This isn't about you. I swallowed hard. Why does it matter what I do? I asked. But I already knew the answer. Because the truth didn't fit her version of reality. Because I didn't fit the image she was trying to sell. Because in her story, there was only room for one successful child. And it wasn't me. You always find a way to make things complicated, she said, her voice tightening. Just this once, can you not make everything about yourself? That did it. That one sentence. It wasn't anger I felt. It was something worse. Clarity. I could argue. I could push back. I could finally say everything I had been holding in for years. But it was 2 in the morning. And I was tired. Not just physically. Emotionally. 34 years of the same conversation, just in different forms. Fine, I said. Too quickly. Too easily. I'll be there. I hung up before she could say anything else. And just lay there in the dark. Staring at the ceiling. Letting the silence settle. But something was different this time. Something I couldn't ignore. Because for the first time, I wasn't just hurt. I was starting to understand. This wasn't about protecting me, It wasn't about avoiding awkward conversations. It wasn't even about my brother. It was about control. About keeping a story intact. A story where my brother, Ethan Carter, was the golden success. And me? I was just background noise. And for years, I played along. Stayed quiet. Smiled when needed. Shrank when expected. But that night, something shifted. I didn't know it yet. But that 2 a.m. call? It wasn't just an invitation. It was a warning. Because the next evening, at that dinner table, one simple question was going to expose everything. And this time, I wasn't going to disappear. I almost didn't go. That's the part nobody knows. I stood in my apartment the next afternoon, staring at my reflection, and for a second, I seriously considered staying home. Because something about that call still felt off. Not just rude. Not just controlling. Calculated. Like my mom wasn't just asking me to be quiet. She was hiding something. And I didn't know what yet. But I was about to find out. I checked the time, 4:12 p.m. If I left now, I'd barely make it before dinner. Plenty of time to turn around. Plenty of time to avoid whatever mess was waiting for me. But I didn't. And honestly, that decision changed everything. I grabbed my keys, my blazer, and walked out. No music. No podcast. Just silence as I drove. And that silence? It wasn't peaceful. It was loud. Because memories started creeping in. One after another. And I wish I could say they surprised me. But they didn't. They just confirmed everything I'd been ignoring. Like the time I graduated near the top of my class, and my mom didn't show up. Or the time I landed my first big case, and she cut me off mid-sentence to talk about Ethan selling a car. Or the time I sent her flowers on Mother's Day, and found them in the trash a week later. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Because suddenly, it all connected. Every dismissal. Every interruption. Every "this isn't about you." It wasn't random. It was a pattern. And tonight, that pattern was about to be tested. I pulled into a gas station halfway there. Stepped out. Looked at myself in the window. And for a second, I didn't recognize the person staring back. Not because I looked different, but because I felt different. Clear. Like something inside me had finally snapped into place. I wasn't confused anymore. I wasn't waiting for approval. I wasn't hoping she'd change. I just understood. And that made me dangerous. I got back in the car. Kept driving. The sun was starting to set by the time I reached the neighborhood. Same houses. Same quiet streets. Same feeling I used to get as a kid. Like I had to shrink the second I stepped out of the car. But this time, I didn't shrink. I just noticed. Noticed how nothing had changed. Except me. I parked. Sat there for a second. Engine still running. Hands on the wheel. And something in my chest tightened again. Not fear. Anticipation. Because I could feel it. Tonight wasn't going to be normal. I stepped out. Walked up to the door. And before I could even knock, it opened. My mom was already standing there. Like she'd been waiting. Her smile was perfect. Too perfect. Finally, she said, stepping aside. Come in. No hug. No warmth. Just control. I walked inside. Everything looked staged. The table. The lighting. Even the smell of food felt intentional. Like this wasn't a family dinner. It was a performance. Sit, she said, adjusting a napkin. We need to go over a few things. There it was again. Instructions. Rules. I stayed standing. What things? She turned to me, eyes sharp. You don't sit next to the judge. I wasn't planning to. You don't talk about your job. I heard you last night. And if anyone asks, I work in an office, I finished. A pause. She studied me. Like she was trying to see if I'd break. If I'd push back. But I didn't. Not yet. Good, she said finally, smoothing her dress. Let's keep things simple. Simple. That word again. I glanced toward the living room. My dad was sitting in his chair. Newspaper open. Same as always. He didn't look up. Didn't say hi. Didn't even acknowledge I was there. And somehow, that hurt more than anything my mom said. Because silence? Silence is agreement. You're early. I turned. Ethan walked in from the hallway. Relaxed. Smiling. Like none of this was weird. Hey, he said casually. Glad you made it. I nodded. Yeah. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. Mom told you the plan, right? The plan. Not dinner. Not family. A plan. Yeah, I said. Cool, he smiled. It's just for tonight. No big deal. No big deal. I stared at him for a second, trying to understand how he could say that so easily. How he didn't see what this actually was. Or maybe he did, and just didn't care. I won't lie if someone asks me directly, I said quietly. He shrugged. They won't. That confidence. That certainty. It should have reassured me. But instead, it made my stomach drop. Because something told me he was wrong. Very wrong. The table was already set. 8 seats. Carefully arranged. And when I saw where my name was placed, everything clicked. Far end. Corner seat. As far from the center as possible. Not hidden. Just minimized. Exactly where I was expected to be. I let out a slow breath. And took my seat. Because for now, I was still playing along. But not for long. The doorbell rang. And the moment it did, The entire energy in the house shifted. My mom straightened instantly. Ethan fixed his posture. Even my dad lowered his newspaper. Showtime. And I felt it. That quiet tension right before something breaks. Because deep down, I knew this dinner wasn't going the way they planned. Not even close. And the worst part? They had no idea yet. The door opened, and everything changed in a single second. Because the moment I saw him, my stomach dropped. Not fear. Not nerves. Recognition. And I knew this night was about to go very, very wrong. But no one else in that room had any idea yet. "Welcome," my mom's voice lifted, overly warm, almost theatrical. She stepped forward like she was greeting royalty. And maybe, in her mind, she was. "Mr. Bennett, Mrs. Bennett, such an honor." The man stepped inside first. Tall. Composed. Sharp eyes that scanned everything in half a second. And the second those eyes passed over me, they paused. Just for a beat. But it was enough. Because I knew that look. I had seen it before. Across a courtroom. Behind a bench. Where every word mattered. Where every detail was noticed. And suddenly, my chest tightened. Because this wasn't just any judge. This was him. The same man I stood in front of months ago. The one who watched me argue a case. The one who... No. Not now. I forced my face neutral. Calm. Controlled. Because if I reacted, everything would collapse too soon. And something told me this needed to play out. "Please, come in," my mom continued, guiding them inside like she was directing a scene. "This is my husband, Daniel." My dad stood. Shook hands. Sat back down. Minimal. Predictable. "And this," she beamed, pulling Ethan forward, "is my son, Ethan. He's a regional sales director." There it was. The lie. Delivered so smoothly. You'd almost believe it. Ethan smiled, shaking hands confidently. Like he'd heard it so many times. It had become real. Mr. Bennett nodded politely. But his eyes? Still calculating. Still observing. And then, my mom turned to me. Just slightly. Like I was an afterthought. "And this is Ava," she said quickly. "My daughter. She works in an office in D.C. The smallest introduction. The smallest version of me." And for a moment, I said nothing. Just like she wanted. But when Mr. Bennett reached for my hand, everything shifted. His grip was firm. Measured. And then, he didn't let go right away. A pause. A slight narrowing of his eyes. Like something didn't add up. "Ava," he repeated slowly. And there it was. That tone. That exact tone. The one judges use when something feels off. But they're not ready to say it yet. My pulse spiked. Because I knew what was happening. He was trying to place me. And if he did, This entire night would explode. Let's all sit. My mom cut in quickly, her voice just a little too fast. Too eager. Too controlled. She gently pulled him away from me. But not before he looked back. One last glance. Longer this time. And I felt it. The recognition wasn't gone. It was growing. Dinner started. But it didn't feel like dinner. It felt like a countdown. Every second ticking towards something inevitable. My mom took control immediately. Guiding every conversation. Answering questions that weren't hers. Redirecting anything that came near me. Ethan just closed 3 major deals, she said proudly. His manager says he's one of their top performers. Ethan nodded along. Smiling. Saying nothing to correct it. And I sat there. Quiet. Watching. Because this wasn't new. This was the same script. Just a bigger audience. But then, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Bennet leaned slightly forward. Her eyes moved from my mom to me. I'd love to hear more about Ava, she said gently. The room shifted. Subtle. But real. My mom's smile didn't break. But her hand tightened around her fork. Oh, Ava's very private, she replied quickly. She doesn't really like talking about herself. A lie. Another one. Stacking on top of the others. And for a second, I almost let it slide. Almost. But then, I don't mind, I said. And just like that, everything stopped. My mom turned toward me slowly. Too slowly. Warning written all over her face. But I ignored it. Because something inside me had already decided. No more shrinking. Not tonight. Do you like living in D.C.? Mrs. Bennet asked with a warm smile. I nodded. I do. My office is actually near the Federal. Ava, my mom cut in sharply. Can you check on the kitchen for me? Silence. Everyone heard it. Everyone felt it. And suddenly, it wasn't subtle anymore. It was obvious. I stood up. Walked to the kitchen. Not because I needed to. But because I needed a second. Because my heart was beating faster now. Because the cracks were starting to show. And once cracks start, they don't stop. The door swung open behind me. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. What are you doing? My mom whispered harshly. There it was. The panic. You told me to be quiet, I said calmly. You didn't say I couldn't answer a direct question. You were about to mention the courthouse. So? So don't, she snapped. Why is that so hard for you? I turned to face her. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. Not anger. Fear. Real fear. Like everything she built, was seconds away from collapsing. You're not protecting me, I said quietly. I'm protecting this family, she shot back. No, I said. You're protecting a story. That hit. I saw it in her eyes. But she didn't respond. Because she couldn't. "Just go back out there," she said finally, her voice tight. "And don't say anything else." I held her gaze for a second longer. Then walked back to the table. Sat down. Picked up my glass. And waited. Because now? I wasn't trying to survive the dinner. I was watching it. And the tension? It was building fast. Mr. Bennet hadn't said much. But his attention kept drifting back to me. Again. And again. And again. Until finally, he spoke. "How long have you been in D.C.? Simple question. But not really. "About 8 years, I answered. He nodded slowly. 8 years is a long time. Pause. Then, "What line of work did you say you were in again?" There it was. The moment. The one my mom had been trying to avoid all night. I felt her freeze beside me. I felt Ethan shift in his chair. I felt the entire table lean into the silence. And I knew there was no clean way out of this. Because this wasn't just a question. It was a test. And he already suspected the answer. I opened my mouth. And for a split second, I remembered her voice from the night before. "Just say you work in an office." But something inside me refused. Because this wasn't about embarrassment anymore. This was about truth. And truth doesn't stay hidden forever. "I work in." But before I could finish, my mom dropped her fork loudly. "Oh. Would anyone like more wine?" She said quickly. Too quickly. Too obvious. And that's when I saw it. Mr. Bennet leaned back slightly. Eyes narrowing. Not confused anymore. Certain. And that's when I realized we weren't hiding anything anymore. We were exposing it. And the worst part? The real question hadn't even been asked yet. The room didn't breathe. Not after that. Not after the way Mr. Bennet leaned back in his chair, eyes locked on me like he had finally found the missing piece. Because now? He wasn't guessing anymore. He was confirming. And everyone at that table felt it, even if they didn't fully understand it yet. My mom reached for her glass, but her hand wasn't steady anymore. That perfect control she had all evening? It was slipping. And she knew it. But the worst part? She still thought she could fix it. I was saying, she jumped in quickly, forcing a smile. "Ethan has been doing incredible at work lately. His company is already talking about a major promotion." "Patricia." Mr. Bennet didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. But that one word? It cut through everything. My mom froze. Mid-sentence. Mid-breath. Because that tone, it wasn't conversational anymore. It was authoritative. Controlled. Final. And suddenly, this wasn't her dinner table anymore. It was his courtroom. And she knew it. "Yes," she said, trying to keep her composure. "But I heard it. That crack. That tiny break in her voice. I asked your daughter a question. Silence. Heavy. Unavoidable. And for the first time all night, no one tried to interrupt. Because now, everyone understood. Something was happening. Something bigger than awkward conversation. Something that couldn't be redirected anymore. Mr. Bennet turned back to me. Calm. Focused. How long did you say you've been in D.C.? 8 years, I replied. He nodded slowly. Then came the line that changed everything. I thought so. My heart skipped. Because I knew exactly what that meant. But no one else did. Not yet. But no one else did. Not yet. I'm sorry, my mom cut in quickly, her voice tight. I think there's some confusion. There isn't. Simple. Direct. Unshakable. And just like that, the illusion shattered. My mom went completely still. Because she realized it. She couldn't control this anymore. Not with smiles. Not with interruptions. Not with lies. Mr. Bennet set his glass down gently. And then, he stood up. And the second he did, the entire room shifted. Because now, this wasn't dinner. This was a moment. The kind you don't forget. The kind that changes everything. I'd like to say something, he said calmly. And my mom. She lit up. Actually lit up. Because she thought. This was it. The approval. The praise. The validation she had been chasing all night. Of course, she said quickly. Please, go ahead. She even glanced at Ethan. Like this was his moment. Like everything had gone exactly as planned. But I knew better. Because I had seen that look before. That measured calm. That quiet precision. And it never led to praise. It led to truth. Mr. Bennet took a slow step forward. Then another. Moving around the table. Not toward Ethan. Not toward my mom. Toward me. And with every step, the tension tightened. Like something was about to snap. He stopped right beside my chair. Close enough that I could hear his breath. Close enough that everyone else leaned in without realizing it. And then, he looked down at me. Not cold. Not angry. Just certain. I have to admit, he said quietly. I'm surprised to see you here. 6 words. That's all it took. 6 simple words. And the entire room collapsed. My mom let out a nervous laugh. Too fast. Too loud. Oh, Ava is my daughter, of course she's here. But he didn't look at her. Didn't even acknowledge her. His eyes stayed on me. And that's when everyone felt it. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was recognition. Who are you to them, exactly? He asked. The question landed like a hammer. Because it wasn't casual. It wasn't polite conversation. It was precise. Deliberate. And loaded with meaning. Silence swallowed the room. Ethan stopped moving. My dad actually looked up. Even Mrs. Bennet leaned forward slightly. Waiting. Watching. Trying to understand. But my mom? She was unraveling. I think you might be confusing her with someone else, she said quickly. Too quickly. Too desperate. And that's when he finally turned his head. Just slightly. Enough to acknowledge her. I'm not. 2 words. Calm. Final. Irrefutable. And then he dropped it. The Ava Carter I know, he continued, stood in my courtroom 5 months ago. My mom's face drained of color, and delivered one of the most precise arguments I've heard in years. Complete silence. No movement. No sound. Nothing. Because in that moment, every lie died at once. Mrs. Bennet's hand moved to her mouth. Ethan's glass hit the table harder than it should have. My dad blinked like he was waking up from a dream. And my mom? She just stared. At him. At me. At the space between the truth and everything she had said. Like her world had just cracked open. And she had no idea how to fix it. You're a lawyer? Mrs. Bennet whispered. Her voice wasn't judgmental. It was confused. Because the story didn't match. Nothing matched anymore. I took a breath. Slow. Steady. Because this was the moment. The one that had been building all night. The one my mom tried to avoid. The one I couldn't escape. And honestly, the one I wasn't afraid of anymore. Yes, I said calmly. I'm a litigation attorney. The words hung in the air. Heavy. Real. Unavoidable. And I've had the honor of appearing before Judge Bennet twice. No drama. No attitude. Just truth. And somehow, that made it even louder. My mom shook her head slightly. Like she could still undo it. Like if she denied it hard enough, reality would shift. There must be some mistake, she whispered. But even she didn't believe it anymore. Because the damage was done. The truth was out. And there was no putting it back. Mrs. Bennet slowly turned toward my mom. You told us she worked in an office. Not angry. Not accusing. Just factual. And that made it worse. Because facts don't argue. They expose. My mom opened her mouth. Closed it. Tried again. I just didn't want her to feel pressured, she said weakly. And that was the moment everything truly broke. Because no one believed it. Not even Ethan. Not even my dad. Not even herself. And I realized something right then. This wasn't about me anymore. This was about her. Her fear. Her image. Her need to control the story. And now? That story was gone. Destroyed by one question. And one honest answer. But the night? It wasn't over yet. Because the next question was about to be even worse. You could hear it. Not a sound. Not a word. Just the silence breaking. Because once the truth came out, there was no going back. And everyone at that table knew it. But what happened next? That's what no one was ready for. Not even me. Ethan was the first to move. His chair scraped loudly against the floor as he stood up too fast. "This is getting blown out of proportion," he said quickly. Too quickly. Like he was trying to grab control of something already slipping away. "It's just a misunderstanding." But no one responded. Because it wasn't. And deep down, he knew it too. Mrs. Bennet slowly turned her gaze toward him. Not harsh. Not emotional. Just observant. "The misunderstanding," she said carefully, "is that we were told one story." Her eyes shifted to my mom. "And we're now seeing another." Every word landed clean. Measured. Impossible to dodge. Ethan swallowed. Looked at my mom. Waiting. Hoping she'd fix it. Like she always did. But this time? She couldn't. Because this wasn't something you could smooth over with a smile. This wasn't something you could redirect. This was exposed. Raw. Visible. And for the first time in my life, my mom didn't have a script. "I just wanted tonight to be perfect," she said suddenly. Her voice cracked. And just like that, she switched. From control to collapse. "I wanted things to go well for Ethan," she continued, tears forming. "I didn't want anything to complicate it." Complicate. That word again. Always the same. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not even hurt. Something clearer. Stronger. Because finally, I understood. This was never about me being difficult. It was about me being inconvenient. And now? I wasn't willing to be invisible anymore. "You didn't want the truth," I said calmly. Every head turned toward me. "You wanted a version of it that made things easier." My mom looked at me. And for a second, I saw something real. Not control. Not performance. Fear. "You always do this," she said quietly. "You always make things bigger than they need to be." I almost smiled. Because that sentence? It used to control me. Used to make me question myself. But not anymore. "No," I said. "This is the size it's always been." Silence again. Heavy. Honest. And then, Mr. Bennet spoke. But this time, his tone was different. Softer. Not a judge. Just a man. "The truth isn't what complicates things," he said. "It reveals what's already broken." That landed deep. And no one argued. Because no one could. Mrs. Bennet placed her napkin down gently. Then looked at Ethan. "I need to ask you something." Her voice was calm. But there was weight behind it now. "Is everything we've heard about your job accurate?" The question hit harder than anything before. Because this time, it wasn't about me. It was about him. Ethan froze. And in that moment, I saw it. The same pressure. The same expectation. The same trap. Just on a different side. "Mom," he started quietly. But she didn't interrupt. Didn't jump in. Didn't save him. Because she couldn't. Not anymore. "Ethan," Mrs. Bennet said again. Gentle. But firm. "Is it true?" And for the first time all night, he didn't have an answer ready. Because the truth? It doesn't come with a script. "I'm a sales associate," he said finally. Barely above a whisper. And just like that, the last piece fell. Everything exposed. Everything real. Mrs. Bennet leaned back slightly. Not shocked. Not angry. Just processing. Because now she understood. The whole picture. Not just the lie, but the system behind it. Ethan sat down slowly. Like the weight of everything had just hit him at once. And for a moment, I almost felt bad for him. Because he wasn't the villain. He was part of the story. Just like I had been. But the difference? I chose to step out. He didn't. Not yet. "I think we need some air," Mrs. Bennet said quietly, standing up. Her husband nodded. No argument. No drama. Just a decision. And sometimes, that's louder than anything. They walked toward the door. And for the first time, the performance ended. No perfect goodbye. No polished smiles. Just reality. Ethan followed them halfway. "Wait, please, this isn't." But the door opened. And closed. And just like that, they were gone. The silence that followed was different. Not tense. Not building. Final. I stood up slowly. Picked up my blazer. And that's when my mom spoke again. Her voice small now. Barely holding together. "You just ruined everything." I turned to her. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small standing in front of her. "I didn't ruin anything," I said calmly. "I just didn't lie." That hit harder than anything else. Because she knew it was true. We both did. "I did this for this family," she said, tears falling freely now. "I wanted us to look good." I nodded slowly. "I know. And I meant it. Because I finally understood her." But understanding someone doesn't mean accepting what they do. "But I'm not going to be small so someone else can look bigger," I added. My voice didn't shake. Not even a little. Not anymore. She flinched. Like the words physically hit her. But I didn't raise my voice. Didn't argue. Didn't fight. Because I didn't need to. The truth had already done that for me. I turned to Ethan. He looked lost. Completely lost. Like the world he understood didn't exist anymore. "I hope you figure things out," I said quietly. And I meant that too. Because for the first time, it wasn't about competing with him. It was about stepping away. I walked to the door, opened it, and stepped outside. The air felt different, lighter, like something I had been carrying for years was finally gone. I took a deep breath, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was leaving something behind. I felt like I was walking towards something. Myself. I got in my car, sat there for a second, hands on the wheel, and I waited, half expecting someone to come running out, to call my name, to stop me. But no one did. And that told me everything. I started the engine, pulled away, and as the house got smaller in the mirror, so did the version of me that used to live there. The quiet one, the invisible one, the one who stayed silent to keep the peace. She was gone. And I didn't miss her. Because here's the truth. And I want you to really hear this. If someone needs you to be smaller, to make their life easier, that's not love. That's control. And the moment you stop playing that role, everything changes. Some people will walk away. Some relationships will crack. Some truths will hurt. But what you gain is something no one can take from you. Yourself. So if you're sitting at a table right now, where you feel like you have to shrink, ask yourself one question. How much of me am I giving up just to stay? Because one honest answer can change everything. And trust me, if you think this story was intense, the next one, it's even worse. So don't leave yet. Because what happened after this night will make you question everything you thought you knew about family.